So I am super excited to be here and lead this panel at Stockholm FinTech Week. And of course, I would have loved to be home in Sweden and actually being in a conference room together with all of you. But virtually is also good because most likely I wouldn't be able to be in Sweden now. So virtual conferences actually have enabled us, as I'm based down in Australia, to know more what's going on in the world. And I'm leading the Emerging Payments Association Asia, which is the leading branch organization for payments companies in the region. And we've been doing quite a bit of work on open banking over the last 18 months. But I know that in Europe, things has been going on since longer since that. So we're always looking over to the West to see what's going on and what can we learn from. And hence, super excited to be here today to talk about open banking and what the situation is. And I have a brilliant panel with me today. So I have Anders Widegren from Swedbank. And I think everybody knows who Swedbank is. So Anders, maybe you can say a little bit about your role within Swedbank.
Well, Swedbank is a 200-year-old bank. We've got about 7 million retail customers and about 500,000 corporate customers in our home markets in Sweden and the Baltics. I personally work with regulatory strategy and coordination within the area of digital banking with focus on open banking and payments. So basically trying to make regulation into strategy and ensure that we also have good cooperations with other industry players.
Excellent, thank you. And we have Olof Eriksson, who is VP Products for Pleo. And Olof, maybe you can say a little bit about Pleo also, so everybody knows what you do.
Of course. Hello, everyone. Also, Pleo is a fintech startup out of Copenhagen. And we are on a mission to make it basically kill expense reports, make it really easy for everyone in the company to buy what they need, and for the finance department and the managers to really keep a good eye on the spend and understand where everything is going. And I think the end goal is to make people feel valued at work, to remove all the hassles and roadblocks and things that just gets in the way of creating value for your business.
Excellent. And I think a congratulations is in place also. I think Pleo became the startup of the year globally. So well done on that.
Thank you.
We also have Emil Sundvinsson from Cred here. Can you introduce yourself and a little bit about Cred?
Sure. Hi, Camilla. Good to be here. Yeah, Cred started about 5 years ago. We're about 100 people here in Stockholm. Our mission is to empower entrepreneurs. We make everyday life simple for the smallest businesses, bringing this sophistication of big banks to the smallest businesses, providing funding and easy access to payments.
Excellent, thank you. And last but not least, Mikko Kartamo from MasterCard. And I think we know who MasterCard, we have you down in our region also. I should say that also I'm a big passion about bringing Swedish companies to Australia and APAC. So Swedbank, Cred and Pleo, we hope to see you down here soon. So Mikko, please tell us a little bit about your role within MasterCard.
Thanks, Camilla, and great to be here. So my name is Mikko Kartamo. I'm leading open banking expert sales at MasterCard. I am currently responsible for Northern Europe, Baltics, Germany, and Switzerland. As Camilla said, the company itself doesn't require a further introduction, but maybe to emphasize that we're a tech company. So we have the card business and we also have a strong account-to-account business, and complemented by data and cyber intelligence, frauds. So it has been actually quite natural for us to step into the open banking space, and we're super excited about this new evolution and happy to support this evolving ecosystem in open banking space.
Yeah, I totally say that it is so much excitement around open banking because we really are scratching that surface to see what will come, what innovation can be built on this enabler. And as you probably know, it's quite different, the open banking or the customer data regime we have in Australia. So hearing more about the data and what happens in Europe. So I'm not an expert on this. I hope to learn from you guys today. But what I've seen is that in September, the implementation entity, open banking implementation in UK, came out that the people that's using banking has doubled 2 million over the last 6 months. So how is the situation in Sweden and in the Nordics? Andreas, maybe you can speak a bit to that.
I think that first of all, we need to see that anticipations in Europe before PSD2 were very high. And there was very high expectations of that. A lot of customers would go over to other smaller nation companies and use their services and sort of leave the larger banks. In sort of contrast to, in the same way as in the UK, we have seen very good developments in Europe and in the Nordics especially. We might not have 2 million customers using all the services constantly, but if we're looking at the volumes that we compare compared to the UK are very similar to the volumes that we see in the Nordics, if not even larger. A lot of our UK colleagues become very impressed when we show them how good uptake we have in Sweden and in the Nordics. But it does take time to sort of shift the behavior of consumers, and progressively, as we are seeing consumers gaining a higher trust for open banking, we're also seeing them use open banking more. But I think also if we're looking at sort of the most common services and sort of coming out of PSD2, of course, account aggregation and payment initiation are the big services which are starting to become more and more used by consumers. However, there are still a lot of challenges on sort of the infrastructure side with API standardization and sort of what we're seeing both in the UK and the US, that the incumbents and the nation companies need to sort of move closer to each other to create cooperations, and that's where we sort of find the trust in the market, and we're also where we find the traction in the market.
Good. I think you said it twice in that trust is such an important part of this. And that's something that has been echoing a lot in the conversations down here, where we just have the read and not the write access yet. So talking about splitting it in, as you say, the account aggregations, which was sort of a little bit the first cab and uptake that we see people using budgeting apps and things like that. And then we're coming to the payments initiation. Mikko, I'm mixing it up. Olof, I wanted to speak there. Can you say, like, Pleo, what sort of services are you using from open banking for your customers? And do you see any change in appetite through this, the pandemic we're living through, how customer accessing and using open banking?
No, but I think we're obviously following this very closely and look at where it could benefit our customers. I think it's always dangerous as a product to kind of start with the technology and then see what you can do rather with a customer problem. But for us, there are some obvious steps to take within payment initiation, especially to really allow business customers to top up their Pleo funds smoothly and instantly with open banking. There are also, to be honest, there are some exotic use cases both in ICE and PIS and to some extent account aggregation, but it's really right now it's mostly about topping up. And of course, you know, the world is becoming more digital with the pandemic. It's accelerated everything. So we definitely see it's kind of interesting in our use case. We see business spend across many markets. So we can really also see, as a side note, the impact of the various restrictions the governments put down and stuff like that, how it impacts. But we do see a push towards like wanting to digitalize their processes and you know, open banking is a tool to make one of these things smoother, right? maybe to comment quickly on the account aggregation and versus the payment initiations and changes there. So I think the short answer is that there is no great alternative to account aggregation today. We've had payment cards in various forms for I think over 60 years now, which really allowed for this like remote payments from mail order, telephone order, e-commerce, etc. And we never had the option to kind of access oral financial data from a third party before. So I think it's natural that, to see an instant kind of spur of account aggregation services. And I was hoping for more. I think when we're looking at all the neobanks and stuff like that, I think there is an option around like creating a really great layer on top with a fantastic user experience, accessing different banks. And I thought we would see more of those services getting traction, but rather than kind of what happened on the neobank side now, when they go for one niche, do that really well, and then go to the next niche. But so we'll see what comes there. But I'm highly excited to see what the next innovation in that space will come from. I think we're just scratching the surface, and I think just viewing your bank transaction in another bank is not the full potential. So I do expect a lot there. I also expect more in the payment initiation. I think there are many things still to be done to really be a big challenger to cards in terms of like. I think there's the whole subscription thing that needs to be better. I think there's going to be better tools to handling chargebacks, consumer protection, things like that. So I think there's a bit to go, but I think it's definitely on the right and a very exciting track.
Yeah, that's what comes up in panel after panel. We're all excited, but what is actually out there? So I was looking at some number from the International Card Manufacturing. I couldn't get the recent number, but 2019, 37.1 billion plastic cards were printed. So that's a lot of cards out there still. But I'm also looking at some research, read TrueLayer's report, and they saying that within 10 years, they think that open banking is going to be the default payments online. So Mikko, what do you think about this? Do you think that is where we're going, and what could enable that to truly happen?
So, I mean, 10 years is a long time, right? And we live in a very dynamic world, so it's early to say what will be the outcome. Open banking in general enables so much, and I think we've seen multiple different open banking use cases around e-com. Will open banking be a default to digital payments? Most likely it could be a default account-to-account payment method, yes. But as a default payment, it's as said, too early to say. I mean, it varies so much per market how customers wish to pay. And the ways buyers and sellers wish to pay have multiplied. So I envisage that in the future, there will be even more difference with the payment, how customers just prefer to pay. So it's really early to say what will be the outcome. And we at MasterCard, we have committed to empower our customers with choice how they wish to pay, how they wish to move money, how they wish to use and benefit from their financial data. And as said, most likely open banking payments could be the default for account-to-account payments, but it might be a bit too early to say how this will play out. But from open banking payment point of view, I would say that open banking, it plays a huge role in the future, especially in various steps of the whole payment or purchasing process. So if we take an example of a customer at an e-commerce checkout buying something a bit more expensive than usually, open banking could be used to first verify the availability of funds in case the merchant sees that the customer actually has quite limited amount of funds available, so they would enable the customer to choose pay later solution. where the customer would give consent to enable the merchant to verify income, do a quick KYC check, credit scoring, and enable pay later solution to the customer. And once the bill is due, then the customer could, let's say, leverage a payment link, incorporate it into an email invoice, do a payment initiation call to pay off that bill. So in this case, open banking could support in various steps through the whole purchasing process. So it's really interesting to see how it will be in 10 years' time, but I would say that it's too early to say that open banking payments would be the default for digital payments.
Yeah, thank you for that and the detailed answer on what it could be. So we might have time to revisit that what are the obstacles? How do we get to that? Because I think we all agree we want to see this new innovation. And often a lot of the open banking conversation are circling around what are we doing for the end consumer, how we're empowering the end consumer. But it also is an SME story or a business, B2B story, I should say. And we do know, at least in our region, that the SMEs has often been underserviced when it comes to financial services, both in the payment space as in the credit space. So I'm going to turn to you, Emma, because this is your space, and I know also that you recently was given, is probably not the right word, you got your PSD2 license. So what are you saying for demand from SMEs, and what do you expect we'll see?
Yeah, I mean, that's our specialty. We only work with SMEs, the smallest businesses, and there's a lot of them out there, and sometimes they're forgotten. We see all those fantastic innovation that is happening for consumers, but small businesses are often forgotten. And we must remember that these are the guys that really keep society up and creating all the jobs. So we're going to see a lot of innovation in this space, I'm sure. We got our AIS and PIS license recently, and for us, I mean, our core business is really extending credits. And first of all, in the first level, we use our AIS just to accumulate data. You know, making a credit score or prediction based on 2019 data in the pandemic is not good enough. We need real-time banking transactions. In the next level, we think we're going to change the way payments are made. Payments are still a hassle for small businesses. I think Plia has done a great job with their app. It's fantastic to use, but we're going to see so much innovation and just making it easier to make everyday payments for small businesses. Today it's really old-fashioned. You take the small pizza guy, they still pay with their private card. They have this small receipt in some kind of shoebox, and accounting is a hassle. So just making that easy, and payment initiation is one obvious choice where you want to pay, but you can also imagine other ways to pay, like extending credit to purchase and slice and snooze on payments. So I think this is really the big next area of development that we see in our space, to bring all of this innovation into the SME segments. So yeah, I agree. We're excited. We haven't seen much yet, but it's going to happen.
Good. So we're talking about innovation, what's coming. We're going to talk a little bit about where we are with standards. But before we go there, I've been in many discussions around people using the aggregation service and would you dare to pay with open banking? So what is the downtime, uptime? Is there anybody can say like what is the percentages of payments going through? Is it any downtime to talk about at all? Because I know myself, if I'm going to use a new service and it would not work, I might not go back again. But if I'm going to look at my account aggregated, it doesn't work, I'll just try tomorrow. Any thoughts on that? Is that a conversation that's been had? Like, is it stable enough? Is it a trust in the market to use the payment initiation?
Andreas here. I think if you look at the statistics of at least the 4 major banks in Sweden, you're going to see that there's a lot of stability in the APIs provided. And if you look at that statistic, which is publicly available on each bank's homepage, you can see that sometimes it's even more stable than the normal user interface.
Yeah, oh, excellent. And Mikko, did you want to say something on that also?
Yeah, I echo what Andreas said, and especially in UK, the ramp up of APIs and payment initiation in general has been growing quite rapidly, and We went live with Tesco Bank in UK, enabling them to enable their customers to pay off credit card bills, leveraging payment initiation. And we were really happy to see that actually the adaptation from the customers with the new payment method was really easy. And I think in general, open banking is a great way to do payments, especially if the underlying infrastructure supports real-time payments, so it's actually a real-time payment. So yes, I'm really excited to see how PIS will take or will ramp up in other markets as well.
Yeah, and I guess where it is, you a little bit in a different stage than what we are. Specifically, if we're looking between countries, Australia is ahead if you compare to many of the countries. But one thing that we're looking in envy to Europe is we're saying, one regulator and you are standardized, it's easier for you. What is the situation with standardization around APIs, Andreas?
Well, like I mentioned before, our belief is that API standardization is going to be one of the key factors required going forward. If we take the example from the SCA market, i.e. Bank ID, and we're looking at what Bank ID has created for a market like Sweden, where we have a standardized SCA model, which is open for everyone and creates a trust towards the industry as a whole. We need to move in a similar direction when it comes to the APIs. It's going to be very difficult for any player to build a specific PSD2 APIs for then account aggregation and payment initiation towards 4,000 different banks in Europe if each API there is going to be individual and bespoke. So we really need to get these standardization initiatives under the European Payment Council and the European Banking Authority up and running again to ensure that we can create a stable and working scheme for APIs so that we can make integration and migration much quicker. And also, as mentioned before, work a lot more with trust issues, and not only trust towards the consumer, but also trust between smaller and larger players in this very innovative market, so that we can really get the maximum potential out of this open banking market. And I think a bit to Emil's point, the SMEs are the major underestimated part of open banking in Europe. To a certain extent, we are looking at consumers when it comes to sort of initiating payments or looking at budget apps. But if we take it one step further and we're looking at what do you call it, basically what Pleo is doing and also what Curit's doing to a certain extent, we can see much greater use cases with SMEs, because they have much higher requirements on their bookkeeping and on their economic situation, and sort of also maybe the split between the private person and the company, which in many cases has been seen as difficult. So I think that through very basic principles of cooperation and standardization, we can bring this market much further. And I think that we can catch all those use cases, especially if both small and large players work together, but also smaller players working together or larger players working together. Because the market is quite large. We're 250 million people in Europe. And there are 4,000 banks, and there needs to be some sort of integration in this decentralized market.
So how, out of interest, as that is what we do for our players here in APAC, we create that neutral arena for the participants to talk and make up their voice before we go. Unfortunately, we don't have one regulator to bring it to. So we go to all the 48 countries that often have more than one regulator in each country. But how do you do that? Where do you come together as an industry?
Well, in Sweden, I would say that maybe there's a bit of a misconception. we still have 27 different supervisors who also sort of create their own interpretation of regulations and directives, and especially directives in that sense. So there's not a full harmonization across Europe. But we have different industry forums.
No, I do.
Sorry? We have different industry
No, I
forums.
said yes.
Sorry, I didn't. Bad connection sometimes. We have different industry forums, which gathers both small players and large players to ensure that we work towards standardization. In Sweden, for instance, we've initiated the Swedish API Forum, where banks and fintechs, or we're all fintechs in a certain way, meet and discuss through different APIs offered to ensure that we can improve the standard of those APIs and the quality of those APIs, and resolve problems on an industry level to ensure that we can take much larger steps forward, ensuring both the quality and the stability of the technology. But it's not only limited to technology and API. We also have to look at the commercial aspects and the legal aspects, and there I think we're seeing much more cooperation, like in the UK and the US, where bespoke APIs or premium APIs are growing quite swiftly.
Yeah, so it's good. Emil, I saw you indicated there. It would be nice to hear from you also in the scale up going across borders.
Yeah.
What's your view?
I mean, we're currently in 6 different countries, and it is a mess to integrate a lot of banks. I mean, there's no way for a small company like us to integrate to all the banks we need. You got to work with aggregators. I would really be happy if there was like a standard interface that we could use, not having to do bespoke integrations for each bank. So great initiative. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I hope it will happen one day.
You and I can make it happen.
Looking forward to it. Now, and you were speaking about APAC as well, and we recently launched operations in Brazil, and it feels like they're on a totally different track than we are. Things are moving quickly, and it's going to be really exciting to see how that progresses. It's going to be a serious challenger.
Maybe to add that, I fully agree. I think.
No, Olof, please go.
Sorry. No, I fully agree, and to build on that, I think it's a challenge for companies, and I think it also shows a little bit for the consumer what can happen. Like I think Spain is one of those examples. I think it often requires like 2-3 authentications to be able to do one transfer, and it comes from this, like it's not clear enough, it's not crisp enough, and people do their own interpretations. I think it hits the businesses, and it also hits the user experience to some extent for the consumers. So I really like to see like initiatives like in the UK when there is an effort to really make this good and really make this standardized, and I want to see more of that.
And quickly from my side, so I 100% agree with what Andreas, Emil, and Olof said. Like from a technical service provider point of view, we are in this space. The complexity comes from the lack of standardization. So each market has different standards. So it creates complexity, and also from like business to consumer, business to business point of view. So some APIs support like single access to both business accounts, corporate accounts, and personal accounts, whereas some APIs have 2 different interfaces for both. So it really creates or increases the complexity in that space.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I like that. It's such an important part with the collaboration. So I'm drawing it to the extremes and saying that it's easy or not easy. But I think sometimes we're overestimating what we do, and we could actually do more. And it's so important to get all the players around the table, the big and the small and the in-betweens and the regulators. So quick around the table. We don't have that much time to spend. So, Andreas, start with one thing you would like to happen in open banking. Just keep it to 30 seconds to move the conversation.
That we get inspired by the card industry and build better schemes and work towards standardization. And
excellent. Collaboration, cooperation, and standards, interoperability. Mikko, what would you say?
I 100% agree with what Andreas said. And in addition to that, I would really like to see the APIs enable pay later type of solution, refunds, and multiple different features around payments.
Excellent. Olav, what would you like to see?
Of course, the standardization I mentioned earlier, and on the more practical level, I hope we can get something quickly, better support for subscriptions to go to a very practical level or recurring payments.
And Emil, last word here. What would we like to see?
Yeah, I gotta agree. Standardization, and I don't know if it's open banking, but if we could have something like a bank ID on the EU levels, we don't have multiple authentication ways. That would be awesome.
Excellent. I think I have to come back and talk digital identity to you guys also, because that's my second favorite topic and something we totally are looking to Sweden for, because you nailed that one compared to what we are battling down here. But for now, thank you so very much for taking the time. And it's been an interesting conversation, and I will share your thoughts in my community.